So, welcome back to Deep Speak with Brother Sadiq. Peace, blessings, love, and light. Thank you for being here. Today, I want to share a little bit more about the story of Mr. Spinner. I talked last about how once I met him, I took him to the Imam and all of that. So, beyond that, I continued to work at this hotel at the valet company and doing valet downtown Indianapolis. I would see Mr. Spinner almost every night. He would come and visit me, and we would talk and share and build. And many a night, he would bring a bucket or a crate or something. He would, sit maybe 50, 60 feet down away from where I was working, staging cars, loading passengers, and dealing with customers and whatnot. So he would sit about 50, 60 feet away, and I'd see him from time to time talk to some of the customers that would come in and out of the restaurants, as well as some of the, just people walking downtown Indianapolis. And so often, the the gentlemen that I would park cars for at these restaurants, these were high end restaurants. So generally, we set up in the evening, 5 o'clock or so, mainly dinner restaurants. And so some of the customers, would come out. They got their girl, they got they arm piece, they eye candy or whatever, and so they come out the restaurant and be kind of arrogant about it. Oh, she's nice, ain't she? You like that, bro? You like that? You see what I got? Yeah, she's nice, ain't she? Woo woo. And so often I would ask them. I say to them, a lot of the times I say stuff like, yeah, she's quite a beautiful woman, but is the question I ask is she as beautiful on the inside as she is on the outside? And 80% of the cats would say, nah, she ain't. They think about it, and they like, nah, she ain't. She kind of nasty attitude. Yeah, she ain't a good person. You hear all of that. And so I thought that was kind of interesting because some of those same guys would end up talking to Mr. Spinner. I often would not hear what they're talking about, but I would see the reactions from them talking with him. And I've seen cats go in their pocket and give him money and baby, give me all the cash you got. I need to help this brother out. He just gave me some information that I needed. And so I saw him often, I guess you could say, like being just a homeless guy on the street, acting as a psychic. So I seen him do this with a bunch of people. And I had a friend, older gentleman, lived in Bloomington. I was in Indianapolis at the time, and I had an older friend who lived in Bloomington, and I told him about, uh, Mr. Spinner. I told a number of people who I trusted and who understood some of the, spiritual ramifications of what was going on. And so I told him about this gentleman, and he said, "Well, I am just dying to meet him. I got to meet him. I got to meet him. He's a Christian guy anyway." Um, and so one day I was at work in Indianapolis, and this friend of mine called me, and he said, "I'm in town. I'm actually in town to, I'm wrapping up a meeting, and I was gonna see if I could swing by and hopefully catch you and possibly see Mr. Spinner." And I mentioned, that's cool. He's not here though. Mr. Spinner ain't here. I didn't have a phone to contact him. I had no way of really contacting him. He would just kind of pop up downtown when I was working. So when the guy said he wanted to come and meet him, I was like, well, that's cool. You can come by, but he ain't here. And I can't say when he will be, but he'll probably show up, at some point before the night over. So he's like, well, I'm wrapping up this meeting. It'll take me a couple of minutes and I'm going to head that way. So he comes over. I tell him where I'm working downtown. He comes over. We greet or whatever, and we talking about, Mr. Spinner. And as we're talking, and it's broad daylight, it's like 5:30 or so, 6 in the afternoon and evening or whatever. Maybe 30 feet up the street, here come Mr. Spinner. I didn't see him walk up the block. I didn't see him turn a corner and come. I just, we were talking. I look up and I'm like, oh my God, there you go. That's him. That's Mr. Spinner right there. So here he comes. He's coming now. So this friend happened to be in town. Mr. Spinner pops up. I introduce him. He's like, "Hey, I heard a lot about you. I was kind of interested in you. I heard about you." So they exchange greetings and whatnot, and then they end up having a seat at the restaurant that I'm working at. And I don't know what they're discussing, but they're talking, and I'm, still working, so I'm not really involved in the conversation. But maybe 3 minutes later, after they sat down and they're talking, I look over and my friend from Bloomington, the older Christian guy, is crying. He's shedding tears. And I am just like, what is going on? It didn't look like a negative thing, but it was like, well, something's going on. Like, what's going on over there? So I'm really curious, but never really asked because it's not my business. Whatever conversation that Mr. Spinner is having with whoever he's having it with is pretty personal for them. So it's not really like they would even probably be comfortable with you hearing what he's telling them. So whatever happened, that's what took place. And then later on, me, Mr. Spinner, and this friend of mine, I guess you could say we became like the three amigos. This gentleman was financially more stable, and he actually began to fund some of the programming that came out of the interaction of us all meeting. There was programming that came up because it was all related to why I'm here. So what this is all about is partly how I think. Problems occur in life all the time, and it's how you perceive them that helps you to overcome them or be defeated by them. And so I think the fact that how I tend to look at problem solving is directly related to some of the associate programming that came out of our meetings, our relationship. Anyway, the idea behind that is if there is a problem, of course, there will always be problems in life, but the mentality that you should hold or that I hold is not one of woe is me. Oh my God, this has happened. Oh, this is, what, oh my God, I can't believe this is going on. That's kind of a defeatist mentality. It's almost like, woe is me, something is always happening to me. Why is it never good for me? It's a kind of a negative mentality in my opinion. And so for me, it always reflects back to what is the lesson, right? I look at life as a lesson. I look at life as school almost. And so when you have a personal problem, whether it be family or somebody on the street who knows, who cares, but the fact of the matter is, when it occurs, there is the emotional reaction of whatever negative effect has happened to me. If somebody mistreating me or abusing me intentionally, consciously, willingly, then of course I have my negative emotional reaction towards that, and I may cut you off or I may not deal with you at all again. But ultimately, it does not. My ultimate weight does not lie in the action that the person took part in. It mainly goes back to the creator. Like, why? What is the lesson? There was a lesson I was supposed to get there. There was something that I must have missed. There's something more to it than just the negative or the woe or the sadness of it. There is the pain, but there is also a lesson. And so if you can take that lesson from whatever process you are going through, then it'll help you to advance. And I think that's part of some of what me, this friend of mine, and Mr. Spinner shared in common, that mentality. And so from this meeting and us becoming pretty tight, we created, we created a community center. The idea is 24-hour community center, beds, food, clothing, mentors, tutors, and it's a full service facility. The idea is to be able to provide full services for our youth. We, as a people, could probably say that there are some successes in our community. But the fact of the matter is, even those successful people will most likely tell you that they did not and were not able to reach their full potential. And so through prayer and meditation, I believe I was given a gift from the Creator on how we can reestablish community, common unity, um, and to help our youth to reach their full potential, well beyond what we were able to, even the most successful of us. And so this program is called My Brother's Library Incorporated. Some people have already been involved, and I will go more into that in our next video. That is really what this entire video series has been about. It is to share and to give background on how it came about. And so up to this point, I think I've given a pretty clear example of the spiritual path of my life and where and why this came about. And when I asked what the purpose of my life was, over some time through prayer and meditation, I was told that my life's intention and my purpose is to give and to share all that I know with the next generation, with the younger generation, so that they won't go through the exact same trifles and make the same mistakes, and to help them reach a fuller potential. And so that is the goal here. My name is Brother Sadiq Ullah, and I appreciate you for being here. There will be more videos to come, hopefully tomorrow. If not, they will be stretched out to every other day. But please stay informed, stay involved, subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. Peace and blessings.